Alright, hey folks, so we are now going to take the bus or minivan from Phnom Penh, the capital of Cambodia, all the way down to Sihanoukville. Sihanoukville is on the coast, it's on the Gulf of Thailand, and it's pretty well known for its den of gambling hotspots and online scams. It's the home base of Chinese scams. So yeah, we're going to head there for the weekend, and here I am taking the bus. This is the VET bus station in Phnom Penh. So there's a lot of bus operators within the city, but there's no centralized bus station. So each operating company has their own location throughout many parts of the city. So you just got to make sure that you are headed to the right location, as there are many locations for many operators. So this one is VET, and we're about to go board the bus. So VET also has an Airbus Express, which is basically a very large, like 50-foot coach, where they do serve food on board. You order in advance before taking your seat, and it's a choice of ramen, sandwich, hamburger, and then they give you a drink as part of the fare. So this one's about $15 to $17, depending on destination. And then there's the minivan, which runs about $14 to $15, which is no frills and just a minivan. And be aware, the seating areas for all these operators are outside. And sometimes the bathrooms aren't the best. So be sure to use the bathroom before you board the bus. All right, so we're gonna get on the bus now. It's this little minivan over here. So this is another interesting thing about Cambodia. Unfortunately, as you see on this map, there's a lot of wetlands here, but what they end up doing is they fill in everything. So Phnom Penh used to have a lot of wetlands in the city, but now everything is filled in with dirt, and so the city's extremely hot because there's no more space for the land to absorb all the excess heat. So here are the bathrooms, as I mentioned. And now we will board the bus. So you can either book your ticket online or use these kiosks in person to pay cash or credit card. But it's always better to book online so you can book your seat in advance. Yeah. Okay, so this is our bus. As you can tell, it's pretty fancy in here. It's a 15-person bus. There are 2 seats in the front with the driver, which usually gives you the most leg and shoulder room, but you will usually be under the sun for the entirety of the trip. But if it's space that you want to try and book the front row seat. It's pretty cool in here. VET is, and by cool I mean temperature-wise, VET is one of the better operators in Cambodia, and they have very good vehicles. Alright, so we're on our way to Sihanoukville. Okay, so VET is also one of the few operators that give out water on the website. A lot of the operators say they give water for the journey, but most of them don't. So VET is one of the operators that consistently hands out water for your bus trip. one of the things about Phnom Penh is that they're always constantly developing. And when I came back at the beginning of last year, I was like, where did all these buildings come from? I don't remember this land being here. So where did these buildings come from, and how did all this land get here? Well, the city of Phnom Penh actually was surrounded by a lot of wetlands and marsh, and so development was scattered all along the edges of these marshes. But with the development happening and a lot of foreign capital coming in, what ended up happening is that a lot of developers just filled in these marshes and wetlands so that they could build land on. So what used to be in the space of these buildings was just marshes and wetland where you couldn't build. And since they wanted to build and put their excess capital somewhere in some other cheaper country, this foreign development have come in and filled in the land so that they could put their capital in the capital of Phnom Penh. And the only way to do that is by filling in the wetlands and marsh. So that also explains why this city is so hot now. There was a 2-week period where it was 40 degrees Celsius every day, and at night it was still in the 90s Fahrenheit. So that just gives you an idea of how hot this place is. And the reason it's so hot is because naturally speaking, these marshes and wetland absorb the heat from the air with the water in the ground. But since this water has been filled in with dirt, there is no more natural place for the heat to be absorbed at night. So the city constantly stays hot due to the urban heat island effect, which is the heat that's being put out from all the utilities of these buildings, all the exhaust of the cars, and no natural place to store the heat via marshes or wetlands or trees. So you'll notice there's not many trees here. So yeah, Phnom Penh is the capital of Cambodia, and it used to have a lot of water. Traditionally, capitals historically have been set up at the confluence of rivers, and that's the case with Phnom Penh. But as the city has grown, they've just completely filled in all their waterways. So you can tell this used to be a marsh here too, and now they just filled it in and put in buildings. But you should also know, one should also be aware that most of these buildings are actually vacant and empty inside. So they continue to build, but there's really no tenants. So all the building is a facade. Okay, so we saw those clouds on the horizon before, and now we've hit that storm patch. So it's raining pretty hard here, but not exceedingly hard. And so one of the other things with having filled in all the marshes and the swampland is that when it gets to monsoon season and it rains, there's nowhere for this water to go. So streets really flood. The rainwaters will actually go above the curbside right here. But as it's just started raining in the last couple of minutes, it's not yet flooding. But that's another one of the impacts, the negative consequences of filling in the swamp and the marshland is during the rainy season, there's nowhere for the rain to drain into, and so everything just gets flooded. Okay, so we just made it out of Phnom Penh, and now we're on this new China-built highway, 4 lanes, modern engineering standards, safety standards. So yeah, it used to take a long day, basically a whole day to get from Phnom Penh to Sihanoukville. Now you can get there in about 3 hours because of this new highway that just opened last year. You can pretty much drive like 150 kilometers easily with comfort. 150 kilometers per hour, that is. So basically you could drive 100 miles per hour safely on this highway, just because the turn radius are designed for that kind of speed, and there's not a lot of cars on this highway. So therefore it's really easy to get down to Sihanoukville these days. All thanks to China's Belt and Road Initiative. we're coming up to an electronic toll center. So you can see there's a lot of space here. You know, designed and built by China. In China, a toll station like this would have like 10 people preceding the booth collecting different tickets, stubs, and payment in the old days. But now this is the new days, so everything's electronic. You can see here the signs are even in Chinese on the billboard. And out we go. So there will be several electronic toll stations throughout the highway. Okay, we have a little pit stop here. This was not open a few months ago, so everything is still pretty new here. But every ride will always have some 20 to 30 minute break halfway along the trip, depending on where you're going in the country. So yep, this is a China-built brick and road initiative corridor project. On our way to Sihanoukville. Sihanoukville is about 200 or so kilometers away, and we'll be able to make the trip in about 3 hours or so. Alright, so selling some durian, some pomelo, some rambutan, mangosteens. So once again, just 3 months ago, this place was not open. So Cambodia is changing all the time. Here you have your pit stop with toilets. Buying snacks. That's another thing too about Cambodia. Not too long ago, you didn't have any overweight Cambodians, but the economy has improved so much in this country that people are getting overweight really fast. So yep, all fresh food, and it's a nice little pit stop here. We've made it to Sihanoukville, home of empty buildings. A lot of these buildings were started off by Chinese companies, and a lot of them were really basically fronts for illegal gambling or online phishing scams until the Chinese government pulled all their nationals back for the most part. They prevented people from leaving the country. So it's much like the US back during the gold rush days. Like anyone that's here in Sihanoukville has been here for a while, but there's no new Chinese nationals that are allowed to come. So China doesn't even allow their own people to come to this country anymore, mainly because of all the gambling problems that have emanated from Sihanoukville. And then these are kind of the marshes and the wetlands that I've been talking about that were filled in Phnom Penh. So Phnom Penh used to be surrounded by these wetlands, but as I mentioned earlier in the video, they're all filled with land now so that new empty buildings could be built on top of. So here we take a look at the completely empty building. And we've arrived. Okay, so the bus depot was on the outskirt of town, right off the national highway, so I had to transfer to a tuk-tuk to take my eventual way into town. Oh, and you might be able to make out the Chinese Naval Corvette. They're doing military drills right now. It's a joint military drill between the Chinese Navy and the Cambodian Navy. So right now we're heading to my guest house, and we're going into the center of Sihanoukville. Go. This is Sihanoukville, and if you can make out in the distance, you can see the naval warship right there. Okay, I've made it to my hotel. $21, which I paid on the spot. So it's usually a discount if you buy it in person. On Agoda, it was $22. So I saved $1 by buying this in person. And yeah, here we go. It's Koh Rong. So yeah, ocean view, palm trees. It's a very nice place. But yeah, once again, you can see a lot of empty buildings. All empty. So these are all Chinese developments. And once the Chinese national government prevented Chinese nationals from coming to China, the flow of development and construction abruptly halted. So now we're left with the Sihanoukville with plenty of unfinished buildings. Okay, we are now at the Sihanoukville ferry port. This is the launching pad for all ferries to Sihanoukville. There's 2 operators that go to the islands, and they basically leave 30 minutes apart from one another. So the first departure from one operator is at 8:30 a.m. and another operator leaves at 9 a.m. and then they basically stagger departures every 3 hours. Tickets are $25 round trip, and there's plenty of eating stalls here. So you can come here a little bit early and get your food while waiting for the ferry. Right now it's almost 9 a.m. I'm taking the 9 a.m. ferry, and the sun is burning pretty hot already. So here are all the different ferry operators. They kind of go in different orders. There's a few different islands, and each island may have 1 or 2 stops. So sometimes the circuit, you might be getting off at the first stop, and sometimes you might have to go through 5 stops before you get to your destination. So the round trip can last anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours, depending on where you're going on the islands. Alright, so that's the ferry right here, and this is the waiting area over here.
Charlie's? Yeah.
Con cây như này Vinh.
Here, I'll take it in. You need good? Yeah.
Long set big, stop number 1. Okay, 2. Long set, stop number 1. Going to Koh Rong Salom? Yes. Stop number 3, Koh Rong Salom. Okay. Long set big, stop number 1.
Coi cho nó mình nè.
Thank you, Pakun. Mind the gap. So now we're on the boat. Okay, we're on the ferry now. I'm gonna go check out the outside. Oh, nope, it's blocked. Can't go out here. Alright, there's Sihanoukville. And it's going to be about a 30 to 40 minute ride to the first long set pier, depending on the waves. Right now it's calm, so we should probably be able to get there in 30 minutes. Mind the gap again.
Dạ, coi hay là chơi không coi. Ít cọ bia.
Mommy hai phu vô. Đi tiêu mà ha.
Okay, we made it. Welcome to Koh Rong. So if you're planning to go back to Sihanoukville on the ferry, this ferry doesn't go straight back to Sihanoukville. It makes like 5 other stops to all the other islands around here before it finally loops back. So these people, if they're going to go to Sihanoukville, they probably got like another 90-minute trip. All right, here we go. the island is still relatively undeveloped, so it's a good time to come. The beaches are practically private. Accommodations are limited and Spartan. You can pay $10 for a dorm room, $30 for a bug-infested bungalow, or $1,000 for a retreat on a private island. And there's no exaggeration on these prices or descriptions. That's the actual thing. But yeah, as you can see, you pretty much have your own beach